Three. Well, welcome everybody, and thank you for tuning in to another episode of Vibe Selection. As you already know, I am your host, Kyra, and on today's episode, we have a very fun guest joining us today. We have actor Matt Drago, who starred in numerous projects such as Disney's Counting Scars, viral video What Would Jesus Do? The Journey Continues, and Ridley Scott's Prophets of Science Fiction, No Other Way, and now he will be starring in a film called Somewhere in Montana, where he plays opposite of Graham McTavish and Michelle Hurd. And that actually is out in theaters now. So y'all better make sure you go and go see that film. So thank you so much for joining me today, Matt, and coming and vibing out with me. How are you doing?
I'm doing so great, Kyra. Thank you so much for having me on your show. I am absolutely ready to vibe today. Let's do it.
It is a pleasure. Okay, so give me a little bit of your background. So you used to be a Broadway actor or singer too, right? So let me know, get me into your journey. How did you start your love for acting and singing?
For, for sure. I mean, well, once a Broadway actor, a theater actor, always a theater actor, because I know so many people that are in TV and film, and we honestly talk about theater all the time because it's where a lot of us got our start, right? And theater is live, so it's alive, right? You're like working off of, the audience, and there's just nothing better than just kind of being in a room with people, especially now, like with, technology. It's just nice to kind of get together and just like, to I don't know, just be in the same environment together, right? So early on, humble beginnings. I came from rural Virginia, and I just knew, like, really, like, at the moment I arrived on this planet, honestly, that I just really loved telling stories. And I loved, like, being creative and having my own, like, imagination and just living in that. I didn't need a lot of toys, like, didn't need a lot of that, just needed, like, my own creativity and some space to play, right? And so early on, just got involved in the local theaters. And I tell, young actors that all the time. Like, before you have to have the job or the responsibility, like, get into theater and just play and start to, figure out your process and honestly just enjoy it, right? And so that was me as a kid. I mean, I probably did about 15 to 20 shows in the local theaters, and that kind of like really just kind of got me so involved with meeting a lot of people that aligned with how how I was and who I was, and it just kind of perpetuated me to the next point, which was in theater, especially because that was all that was available in Virginia at the time. Now there are TV and film shows shooting there, but when I was growing up, I found a dinner theater close by in Fredericksburg, Virginia, Riverside Dinner Theater. And it really taught me a lot. I did two children's shows there, which I always say, like, performing for children is the best because, like, they'll tell you the truth. You know what I mean? Like, if you're right, yeah, if you're not bringing the energy, they're not gonna give it to you back, right? And so I did Mowgli and the Jungle Book. I did Hansel and Gretel, and then I did a main stage show, Little Patrick. I played in Mame, which is a really, really cool, mother-son dynamic show. Lucille Ball played it in the movie. It's a great movie as well. And it really taught me really early on the humility that was going to go along with the journey, the work that it was going to take to continue to fight for my dream, because dinner theater is one of those unique arts where you're up on stage, you're singing your ballad under the lights, and then, the act ends and you're serving tables, you're clearing plates, you're refilling drinks. Afterwards, like you're closing shop, you're cleaning up afterwards. So it really taught me that humility. And there's one instance that really gravitated towards me, and I think it really resonated with the power that I found in acting really early on. Because remember, I'm 14 or 15 years old and just excited to have a gig doing what I love. And one night I came off stage, and there was this woman, probably like in her late 60s, early 70s, that came up to me. And she said to me something really extraordinary. She said, Matt, I really wanted to thank you for your role tonight and how you portrayed little Patrick. it really taught me that I need to make an effort to be closer to my son. And the way that she said it, it was like the show resonated with her. It made an impact on her. And honestly, Kyra, that was at the moment where I realized like how powerful storytelling really is and how much of a real impact it can make on people's lives. And so, it just really, even at 14 or 15 years old, it really resonated to me at my deepest core that I was like, oh, this is like what I'm meant to do. And, the journey comes in all shapes of ups and downs. You try never to get too high or too low. But if you can really just enjoy the process of it, and that's what I always tell people that are getting into it, enjoy the process of it, and know that it's going to be work, then it's one of the best gigs in the world, honestly.
And I love that. It's, sometimes when, you get into a particular type of job, such as the entertainment field, you don't always realize how you can impact somebody just by being on the stage. You're just thinking, okay, I'm just acting this role, no big deal. But the fact that that woman felt your, watching you on stage was so profound to her and allowed her to be closer to her son, it gives you even a greater sense of purpose. Like you said, this is my true calling right here, because so many people struggle to kind of find their way. And even sometimes in being in your field, you're kind of clouded by everything that's going on in your life, where sometimes you're not able to like really stop and realize what you were doing and what you've done for yourself and how far you've come in life, you know. So I think that that was a beautiful experience that you had, and that was wonderful that she decided to share that with you. Have you ever had any other experiences like that with people where they've told you how impactful your role was to them?
Absolutely. I mean, I say that that one was probably the most impactful because of the timing that it came in my life, because it was the first time that I was working. Like I had a job, but I also was doing what I loved at the same time. And so that one was really impactful. But I've gotten a lot of great feedback as the journey continued to New York, doing off Broadway and off Broadway theater. Got a lot of feedback. My first professional gig was actually a national tour, and again a children's show. I played Herb and Junie B. Jones and traveled around the country and did those like 9 a.m., 9:30 a.m., shows at the schools or the community theaters. And again, humility, right? You're in, a van traveling around the country with I think our whole cast and crew was like maybe like 8 or 9 people, and we were in a van together, like just driving around. So a very tight-knit group. And definitely again, after shows, you would go up to these kids and you find ways to like sign your autograph, like almost like a Disney character, like, like just kind of make it a little bit like it's your autograph, but it's sort of not, it's in the character. Um, and so many great, I mean, I can think of so many right now. I mean, there were kids that were coming up to me and you were like, like you were so funny. Like, I just loved your energy, or, like that moment, like that you did, like where you were kind of like playing and teasing each other. Like that was so cool. Like I do that with my best friend, or, like just little things like that. And it's all fuel, because I think the reality is it's like, it's a job. And it can be hard, especially these bus and truck shows, these national tours, like they're labor intensive. And, you always have to stay healthy, right? Because, you're getting up early and you're singing and you're dancing and all this stuff. But I think it really taught me just to really feed off of that energy, feed off those vibes, right? For that you're getting from other people, right?
Yes.
But that's so much of what a creative journey is really using that as fuel, because there are going to be moments that are a little bit more down, that you feel like, what is my next job going to be, or how do I get back there, or I just feel like I'm running low on the tank. We've all been there in our different professions. And so I feel like for me, it just gave me that like fuel whenever I took like a nice thing that somebody said. It didn't matter if they were 5 or 6 years old or if they were 76 years old. It didn't matter to me. I used it and almost kept it, like in a little place in my heart where, in those down times, I told myself like, what I'm doing is important, and you got to keep fighting for it, however that manifests to you. And I've fought up until this point. Like, I mean, I was the top task rabbit in LA. I tell people that all the time. I'm proud of it because I didn't have a job when I moved out here. And so, I was one of those people that would take, cleaning up somebody's house or organizing their closet or helping them in the backyard or painting their bookshelf or whatever it took to keep the dream alive. Because I always say this, Kyra, is that dreamers are fighters. Don't sleep on dreamers. Like, we are fighters, and we will fight tooth and nail to make sure that, we still can keep that little kid inside of us, and that spirit of really just fighting in this life for doing something that we're really passionate about, that we've always wanted to do.
Right. And, for a lot of people, it's hard for them to take that leap of faith to actually go for their passion because, sometimes what you have a passion to do won't, get you that $100,000 a year job that you're currently working at or that you may be working at in the future. And sometimes you have to make sacrifices in order to, see your passions, fulfill your passions.
Yep.
It comes with struggle sometimes, but, knowing that you can do it. You can make things happen. You can go and do task rabbit jobs. You can become an Uber and Lyft driver or a waiter or whatever it takes for you to get your dreams out there. Life isn't always needing to be motivated by money. And I think that's a
Mm,
hard thing for a lot of people to release
yes.
is
Yes.
that, oh, okay, I want to do this passion, but I also need to sustain myself. How am I going to keep a roof over my head? How am I going to feed my kids? I got all these bills piling up. What am I going to do? And it's just like when you continue on your path, the universe will make a way for all of those things to happen for yourself. You will find that job, that task rabbit job that'll allow you to put down money on some of that debt. And over time, it'll all pay off for you. And you just got to keep the hope alive.
And I think you take pride in it too, right? It's prideful to do something that you need to do in order to keep doing what you love. And so I really do. I think about, when I moved to LA with my girlfriend, now my wife, that we didn't have jobs. And so, for me, it was like there is no plan B because I love it so much. And I feel the value in it, and I feel like it's my purpose on this planet in this life. And so I think that because of that, you take pride in those bartending jobs that you have. You take pride in, those task rabbit jobs. You take pride in, now I'm a licensed realtor and I work with one of the biggest teams in LA County, and you take pride in getting keys for your buyers and finding ways to, keep going, right? And so you use that as fuel too. Everything that you have in life, you have to use as fuel because there are moments in your life where you get down, but if you start to take like reflection periods in your life and you're like, no, like I got here of my own volition, and it wasn't easy, and I had to do things that, were hard, but like if you take pride in it and you start to like recount those memories and things that you've done to get yourself where you are, then you're like, you just feel ownership of it. You feel like truly like you've earned it, and that's a great feeling to have.
Absolutely. So I'm curious to know how do you prepare for a role both mentally and emotionally? Because getting into those characters sometimes can be really challenging.
Absolutely. I mean, I always say it goes back to your process as an actor, and your process is uniquely your own. I can't tell you what your process is, and you can't tell me what my process is. We have to figure it out, and so I was very fortunate going back to my New York days that I'm a grandma's boy. I lived with my grandmother on 79th and Broadway, and she really protected me and gave me a home to come back to every night, and that was so special for me. Yes, I had my late nights out, of course. I was in New York City, but I also really was honing in on my craft at the same time. It was really important to me to never diverge from that. And so, because of that, I was able to not only study in college with great acting teachers like, Kevin Connell, but I was able to also get a degree, but also study outside of school too, and take time to go to Actors Equity. For your listeners, that's the Broadway building where all the Broadway shows, hold their like general auditions. And so, if I had a day where I wasn't taking a bartending shift, I would go sing my 16 or 32 bars at Equity and be around actors and have those conversations and just feel like I was auditioning because an audition is a win, right? It's an opportunity to show your stuff, right? And so that brought me into a really pivotal point in my New York times, which were I found this really great acting studio called T. Schreiber Studios, founded by the great Terry Schreiber, and he became like a grandfather to me. And what I loved so much about Terry was just his, when I was studying with him, is his love of actors and just how much he would really assist you in finding your own process. Because he had studied with all the greats, like he had studied with Lee Strasberg, he knew Meisner, he knew Stanislavski. We dabbled in method acting, which is kind of more where I land. And also like, I'd studied kabuki training in college. It's just like Japanese body work, right? Where you find the behavior of the character in the body, and sometimes that influences the mind and the spirit. And so a lot of different things that were thrown at me in New York City, and I loved it because uniquely I would find basically, you cherry pick the things that hit home to you, whether it's this method or this method or this method or this method, and you try to create your own process within that. For me, I realized that I really was driven by backstories. I loved investigating the character, almost like a detective, right? Where I would go into the character and I'd be like, what makes this guy click? What makes him what drives him, what fuels his behavior, because so much of acting is behavior. A lot of acting is not on the line, it's in between the lines, and so I really started journaling about characters and now sometimes I'll do little voicemails or memos on how I feel like the character is developing, and it's just things to start to build the foundation for me. That way, when I go to set or I'm on stage, I can do my favorite part, which is just to let it all go. Because at that point, the only thing that is left to do is just to be and to be with the other actors that have also done their work and their preparation. And when you're around great actors, like, I was so blessed to work with my friend Graham McTavish. He calls me mate now, which is a sign of Scottish camaraderie, which was really great because we built this relationship together off screen that translated on screen. And same with Michelle Hurd. I mean, she's fiery, and I just love her so much. Her and her husband, Garrett Dillahunt, are just such wonderful people and friends in my life that I'm so grateful for. And it's that same process. It's like when you're around pros like that and you've done all your work, you can be in a scene that's 10 pages like I have in Somewhere in Montana that's just Graham and I'm just with him and I'm just reacting in the moment based on what he's giving me. And it's just such an extraordinary art form. And just finding that joy in it is something that you can tell even when I'm talking about it. It just lights me up. It makes me so happy that early on as a kid, I knew what I wanted to do. I knew I loved it, and I knew that I'd be willing to fight for it up until this moment. And so that's why I am a proud actor.
And here you are now,
Here
years
I am now.
later, still doing it big.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm curious to know now, has there ever been a time on set? Now, I know with, your situation in Somewhere in Montana, it was a great experience for you. You seem to be really close with the actors that you worked alongside, but has there ever been a time where you were working on a project and you didn't get along with the people that you were working with on set and you really had to kind of like take a step back to reevaluate things? How do you deal with challenging situations like that? And have you ever dealt with a challenging situation such as that with the people that you're working with?
I'll be honest, I never have. I really haven't. I think that actors get a bad rep sometimes because it's so outward facing. Most people see the red carpets, they see the awards. Listen, it's great to get all dressed up and go to a nice event with your wife. That obviously is fun, but that's not why people get into acting. People get into acting really, truly for the love of the game. Most people honestly like that get into it to get famous. I don't see many of those people, frankly, continue to do it because they don't really love it. They're looking for, um, something from it that's not what it is. It's the love of storytelling, that the journey is the destination. Like it's the destination. And so for me, there have been times that I have seen other people not get along. And I actually had a really interesting experience talking about that theater tour that I did, where I think I've always kind of been the bringer together of people, so to speak, where I've always had that kind of can-do spirit where, people aren't getting along. Well, why? Maybe we're a team. Like we need to get along. We need to have our differences and talk it out. I'm an Italian guy, as you can tell from my hands, like, Italian. Like they have the argument and they let it go. You know what I mean? Like that's literally how most Italians are, and it's just kind of like been ingrained in me. Is like just say it. Like let's just do it and then like move on because at the end of the day we're family. We want the same thing. But I think I realized in my first professional tour that that's not always the case, and it is a job, and there are people that just conflict with each other, even though they're talented actors and they do a great job on stage or on set. That maybe their characters in real life don't align with each other. That's been difficult for me because I always try to step in and bridge the gap and bring people together. That's just my personality. And I remember the producer for this tour coming up to me, and it was actually shortly before I decided to part ways with the tour, with no ill will, by the way. I loved my time on the tour, but there were just some internal arguments with some of the cast and the crew member. And the producer actually came out. And it's interesting because of all the people that he decided to talk to, he came to me. Because I think he kind of realized that like I was kind of that bringer together of people and that I could almost see it from the outside in, even though I was one of the cast members, that like I was really trying to get everybody to align with each other. That way we could do something great and have fun with it. Because at the end of the day, we were telling a really fun story for kids every day. Like, how fun is that, right? So I was trying to get them back to that place mentally, where they could, just vibe, right? And just so we could be together again, right? And appreciate that we were doing something that was fun because it was fun. And we had this really wonderful conversation, and the way that it came to be, and I really respected actually where the producer was coming from. He looked at me and he said, Matt, you're in the pros now. And it's not high school anymore. It's not middle school. And sometimes people just don't get along. And that's just the way it is. And you're doing everything that you can. I respect it. I respect you for doing it. I appreciate it. But it's just not always quality. I think I've always kind of been a little bit of an idealist and, thinking that there's a will, there's a way kind of thing. But for this one specifically, there wasn't, there was just a lot of conflict and that was at the point where I respectfully, got my plane ticket. I think it was out of Sacramento because we had made our way all the way from New York, traveled across the country. And I just felt like it was my time to go to the next chapter, right? Because I didn't really want to be around that. And it was just my way of politely excusing myself from the production. And, I gave them the heads up so that they could recast my part and, give them every respect that they had given me in the production. And I think that those are how you build relationships, right? It's like being an actor is also being a collaborator. It's saying the things that you need to say in the moment, even in the heat of battle, being truthful to yourself. But knowing that, if you're coming from a good place, and whether you're coming from a good place in life or not, right? And I am. I really do. I always try to align people. I try to bring people together. But if it can't be done, it can't be done. And then I need to stay in my lane and I need to do my job because as an actor, your job is to serve the production. It's to serve the writer. It's to serve the producers and the director. And you do that and you do that for a time. And that's where you create those relationships. And that's when, you gift sometimes the fruits of the labor, right? Where a director and Brandon Smith actually just told me at a premiere that we had a couple weeks ago that he's already writing another part for me. I mean, that shows to me like that love and camaraderie that he has for me being a part of his collaborative process and seeing me as somebody that's part of his team. And I get choked up even thinking about it because that means a lot. That means that I uniquely have done my job, but my job isn't just learning the lines, having the process and doing my job as an actor. It's being on podcasts like I am today and telling my story and getting the messaging out there because at the end of the day, these are the kinds of stories that I've always wanted to do as an actor, is to tell big stories that are bigger than myself and that can resonate with people and that can impact people like a 14, 15-year-old version of myself at Riverside Dinner Theater. And I feel like I'm in the sweetest spot of my career right now because I'm just vibing, right? I'm vibing. I'm loving the journey. I'm appreciating it. And I'm really understanding more and more what a team sport this is. And Brandon is a big part of my team now. He's such a pivotal player in not only my journey as an actor, but as a human being. And so being grateful for those relationships and honoring those relationships and being part of somebody else's journey, their collaborative process is just a joy, and it's something that just keeps giving back as an artist, and you just there's nothing better than that. There really isn't.
It's just the gift that keeps on giving, huh?
Amen. Amen. Yep.
So, have you ever played a character that affected you kind of deeply in real life ever?
Yeah, this one. Fabian is the first character that I've ever fully fallen in love with. I love Fabian. Like I think I there's a lot of him and me. There's a lot of me and him, and so that was kind of my approach to this character was more method. And I'll go into that a little bit more because we are vibing, right? Is that
Oh,
method acting is great in so many ways, and I think a lot of people hear the bad parts about method acting where it's like, you're basically losing yourself in this character. Well, sometimes in certain roles like this one, you find yourself in the character, right? And so for me, I just had so much admiration for being from the get-go. I had read the script 3 times before I even put myself on tape for this one because I just really loved what he stood for. He's a dreamer, he's a fighter like me. He's a filmmaker. I'm an actor. I'm a producer now, so he's kind of like lived on through me in my next chapter as a producer in my production company. But I felt like I really understood him because he's one of those people that will go down with his ship. He loves his cast and crew. He will fight for them. He will back them up. He will say the things that need to be said, even in a moment of heated battle. He will go to bat for his people. And I wanted to make sure that with this character, like it was known that like he will go down with his own ship. He will be the person that stands with his cast and crew. And developing that relationship with Michelle Hurd was wonderful because I see her as a big sister now. She's such a pivotal part of my life because her and her husband Garrett like have been professionals in this industry for so long that I gleaned so much from the wonderful conversations that I've had with them and the relationships that I have with them. And a producer to a director really is kind of a brother sister relationship. The producer is the one that can tell the director, because they're in their creative mindset, like, no, we have to do it this way. Like like we have to do this. Like we're losing time. Like and producers are juggling all the time. And so we have a wonderful scene at the beginning of the film that's actually in the trailer, a little snippet of it, is that, she basically tells me like we have to make this work. And that is such a beautiful dynamic when you start to be a real life producer and you start to work with directors, is that you kind of have to understand that like right brain, left brain kind of thing where you are just saying like, yeah, we got to make this work, or we might really be in a vulnerable state with this production. rejection because at the end of the day, you all want the same thing. And
Mhm.
so, for Fabian, specifically to your question, yeah, he is somebody that gravitated to me early and often. And so when I found myself building backstories and I found myself really articulating his character, I found myself letting more and more of Matt in, until my acting teacher flat out said one day, he said, I think you can really start forgetting the name Fabian. Matt. Matt is enough. And not to say that, I didn't, bring certain elements to him specifically that were him and not me, but it was basically I knew what he was saying in that moment. He was saying a lot of the core principles that Matt has are in Fabian's character. So he was basically giving me full reign to just let myself fall into that character. And that's really honestly what made the character so dynamic. And, again, part of method is I lost 25 pounds for this role. I hired Jennifer and Nathan DeTracy, who are nutritionalists, and my friend Nathan Reed, who is an actor. And I uniquely wanted to do something that I felt would put me in the body of the character, right? So that when I felt like I stepped on set, I was uniquely him. Matt loves to lift weights. He loves to drink his protein shake. I've got one right over here. But Fabian is somebody that skips meals. He's hyper focused. He takes care of others more than he takes care of himself. So for me, I felt like losing that weight, muscle and fat and leaning down was going to put me in the mechanism that was Fabian Verdugo in this character. And I did it healthily. I did 5 small meals a day. It was kitchen and cardio for me. They told me what to eat, when to eat it, how to work out, what workouts to do. And those are other masters of craft, right? That you get, really grateful for being able to hire, to on your journey. So I give them all the credit in the world because I couldn't do it without them. So it's those parts of method acting. It's the journey of I was the only person that drove to set. Um, since we're vibing, I'll tell you about that too. I drove to set because it was part of my method journey was driving like almost like Fabian would. Brandon called it the Fabian Freedom Tour, because I was like letting Fabian out. I drove straight from here to Vegas. I spent a couple days in Vegas. I did a spa day, which was very in the vein of Fabian, taking care of myself and just reflecting, doing something maybe a little bit lavish. I took myself to a show. I went to Mad Apple at New York, New York, and it was actually the day that it opened, ironically. So I got to like meet some of the castmates and, walk the red carpet a little bit with them and talk about, New York. And from my New York days, it really resonated with me. I mean, that New York state of mind scene in the show had me in tears. So just an amazing experience. But then I took the next part of the journey. I went to Zion and I hiked the Crystal Lakes and I reflected. And I can't tell you, Kyra, the last time I've watched a waterfall for a half an hour and just like quiet, and peaceful and just like reflecting. And I think that's part of Fabian's journey is that he's really wound up in the beginning. He's up against the clock. He's in a vulnerable state, but he finds ways to change his tone, to soften himself, and to reflect a little bit more. And I think that's what makes this character one that I will always keep close to my heart.
I love that. And I love the fact that there's so many similarities between you and the character that you played because it brings the character more to life because you embody this character from inside of you. Sometimes I've watched, actors on the screen and I'm like, I don't think you really connected all this much with your role that you're doing. I think you probably did this for the check, which I can understand. But at the same time, that's so important with acting is to really feel what you're doing. And if you're going to be an actor, like that's what you should be doing. You have to bring a character to real life. So I love that you were able to do that, but I also love the fact that you didn't forget who you were completely either. You tried to find a balance between yourself and the character because like you were saying with method acting a lot of times there's the other side of it that people talk about a lot of getting too much in character and losing yourself completely and not knowing how to keep that balance. So that's what it's all about. I love that.
100%, 100%. It's a very big misconception that, if you are a method actor, that you lose yourself. I like to look at it more so that you are bringing yourself like fully to a character and finding ways uniquely that you can do that. But you have to keep the two separate. You are still, and I think the way to do that, honestly, for me at least, is to have conversations off screen that are completely off topic from the character. That way, you can continue to ground yourself in both your character and yourself at the same time. So that way you're not losing yourself in either one. But again, with Fabian, I think, uniquely with this character, I was able to learn so much about myself with this character and fall in love with this character that I feel like he was making me a better person while I was getting to live in his shoes, so to speak. So it just became a really fascinating role, not only as an actor, but in my life.
I love that. So, has there ever been a time where you've experienced any rejection or criticism in the acting world? Because I know sometimes it's kind of inevitable. You're not going to always get every role that you may desire. So, have you ever experienced that before?
Of course. I mean, that's part of the gig, right? You have to be able to, and this is the way I say it, for, any actors or creatives listening, is that the audition is the win. You
Mm.
get an audition and that's the win because you love to act, right? So if you love to act, this is your opportunity to act, right? And so, I call people out because the reality is you like to act, here's your opportunity to act. You get that role and you get to put uniquely you into that role, however you do it, whatever process you're using. And again, auditions, you might not have the same amount of time as being granted the role. So I understand that. So it's a little bit of a quicker process. And how to dive deep into, what that character means to you and what elements you feel like you can bring to that character in a very quick time frame because the turnaround is so quick. And it's an inorganic experience because it's in front of a green screen or a wall and you've got your camera out and you're not on set and you're not really, experiencing that relationship with the actor, right? You're essentially looking off screen to a reader, right? So it's inorganic and people understand that. But the joy is the audition. And you see actors, especially like Michelle. We talked a lot about this, and she still just absolutely loves getting auditions. She just loves bringing herself to any type of character. Like you can see the child in her, and she gets all fiery. She talks with her hands a lot too, so we get along
I'll
because we're
just
both like
talk with
really.
the
Oh,
hand.
it's a hand parade when we're talking. Like it's like, and we're both New Yorkers too, so it's like we're both
Very
loud.
expressive.
It's a beautiful shit show, is what I'll say. Like it's wonderful. Like I just love her so much, and so the way that she talks about it, she gets so fiery, and she's like, every time I get a role, it's an opportunity to bring myself to. Oh, I get so excited. You know what I mean? And it's just like it's very um it makes sense when you see someone like her and her incredible body of work and the amount of space that she gives other actors and what a pro she is. And what do I mean by pro? It is that space. It's that collaborative art. It's that enjoyment of the craft. When you start to see that in action and you start to hang out with people like Michelle and Graham and Michael Monks, who plays the producer, the executive producer in the film, the investor, if you will, and just the master class that you get just from being around these people, a lot of times it's literally it's here and here. It's their mindset and it's their heart. It's the ability to hold space for one another. And the people in this cast, really, I mean, we held so much space for each other. We became a family. We'd go on hikes together. We'd go get our meals together. We couldn't get enough of each other. And when I think about that, and I think about the true love of the game, it all starts with the audition, right? Because in this world of being an actor, is you do your work and you love the craft and you get the auditions that you're granted and you put yourself uniquely into that character for a short amount of time. And then the hardest part happens, Kyra, is that you have to let it go and you have to move on to the next one, right? And that's part of the job. So in answer to your question, I don't look at it like rejection anymore. I look at an audition as a win. I look at it as an opportunity to bring myself to a role or a character and to enjoy being an actor for the day and then to let it go. And again, when you start to have those, next steps in your career where you're getting those producer sessions and, you're talking to the director in the room, like I did with Summer in Montana, I think we only ran the scene maybe once, twice, and I found myself like just being so curious about the project and the story and the impact that I felt like it had and the importance of the story. And that's part of the collaborative process too. When you think about like getting a role, sometimes like maybe that's, as much of the reason as, what you brought to your tape or your read is how much you're a part of really wanting to tell and serve the story, right? Because you're a servant to the story. It's the producers and the director that are the backbone of this production, and you want to make sure that you are doing your job to serve them. And I remember that conversation with Eden Matson, our producer, Jared Brocksterman, the local casting director, and Brandon Smith, the writer and director. And I found myself in that like producer session just being so curious and asking a bunch of questions and just really showing my love and appreciation for the fact that this story was going to happen with or without me. And I think that is something that resonated with both of them is just my commitment to if you cast me, I'm going to bring it. And then you let the producer session go. And then, you get that call out of the blue, which I did from Jared Brocksterman. And, he told me that I'd been granted the role. And you can imagine my pure elation in that moment. But I got to be honest, the first thought that went through my head when I hung up the phone was, okay, Matt, now it's time to get to work
Mhm.
because now you have to earn it. It's not just, and I'm a big football fan, it's not just getting drafted by the team. It's now you're on the team. And how do you earn it? By your reps, and your reps for acting is building your character. It's learning the little idiosyncrasies that make that character great. Fabian learns how to roll an Irish penny and flip it around. And like that's something I had to learn because it's like his worry stone. It was given to him by his grandfather. And every time he feels unstable or that he's rubbing something that like is part of his past, some a big connection that he had to his grandfather, which obviously in this conversation you know that I used my grandmother, like my worry stone in the film. When you see me rubbing this, that's my grandmother who I lost a few years ago. And so, I have things that I actually wore in the filming of Somewhere in Montana that were given to me by my grandmother, and it's little parts of the ability to bring yourself fully to a character that make those safety nets and that foundation so strong that when you are collaborating with somebody like, Brandon Smith, and he creates this ecosystem where you have time to, befriend your gaffer, your lighting designer, your set designer, going out to the fire pit and, getting a drink and like talking shop or talking life, like it all becomes part of the film. And so like I always say, like the director, the producer, they're the leader of the pack, right? They create this ecosystem and it trickles down. And I feel like all of us really needed this film. And I think that's what's so unique about Somewhere in Montana. And when you see the final project, you'll see that it's just a labor of love from everyone. And I say that wholeheartedly, that the cast and the crew, we were one in the same family. We would go get, like I said, we'd go get our dinners together. We really couldn't get enough of each other. And I think that's what makes it so special when you're telling a story that's bigger than all of you.
Right? And you're building relationships with people as well and doing what you love. Sometimes when you're working a job, it's you're so inundated with what you're doing work-wise that you're not able to stop and appreciate the simple things in life, like making connections with people. And those connections can also take you other places because now it's like, well, Matt, I heard about this role and I think this will be great for you. You should go in that audition and do it. And then also in regards to rejection, because that's what we were kind of talking about with this question is, I don't really also see it really so much as rejection. I see it as things that were not meant for you or stepping stones into where you need to be going. it's also encouragement for you to kind of do a little better. Maybe there was something in, that audition that you weren't able to give, but in recognizing that, you can work on that and build that. And that's the thing with so many people when they come in the entertainment industry. It's kind of a dog eat dog industry. It's really hard to make it. And if you're not passionate about what you're doing, you can be eaten alive in this industry from some of the rejection sometimes, quote unquote. But you got to know you have to be a very self-assured person, and you have to have a lot of tenacity and the will to keep going. And don't let those simple things, those losses stop you from going towards your goal in life.
100%. Couldn't have said it better. Beautiful.
Yeah. So how do you balance the demands of the entertainment industry with your personal life? Because you're a realtor, you have a production company, you're an actor, you got a whole lot going on. So what keeps you balanced? Do you meditate? What do you do?
I watch a lot of sports.
Okay.
I work out. I work out a lot. I'm fourth degree black belt in martial arts. So my dad is actually my sensei. So I grew up in a dojo.
Oh,
And
that's
Yeah, yeah. So sometimes I'll go outside and do a couple katas, just to clear my mind. I grew up with a father that went to Zendos and meditated and found his spirituality pretty early on in his practice, and I think that has definitely influenced a lot of my practice as an actor. So I just find little ways to escape for a minute, and not to always live in it, right? Because I am so passionate about it. But when you're so passionate about something, it can take a mental and a spiritual toll on you. So you find little ways to escape, and whatever that is uniquely for you, right? So I look at that actually as part of my process, because it is a lot of left brain, right brain, and talking about real estate, it's you're around a lot of people that frankly are very concentrated on their right brain. Many of them are very concentrated on accruing wealth and providing for their families and doing transactions and hustling. And I find myself being sometimes finding the balance within that, because it's not the only thing that's important to me in my life. Like, I mean, if you told me right now that I could leave behind 100 great stories, or have $10 million in my bank accounts, I mean, I would 100 out of 100 times say I'll take the 100 great stories. Because that means more to me, that in terms of value, in terms of what I feel like I can do to leave my impact on the world, because we're not here for a long amount of time. We only have so much time. And that's a big thing that Fabian taught me in talking about, like, that character, is that he feels, even at the age that he's me, right? And I'm him, we're the same age. It's like that, we only have so much time. And so for me, it always felt like something so important and bigger than any paycheck or commission check that I could have. To be able to, really leave behind a couple good stories before I leave the planet. That being said, you have to be able to pay your bills. So, there is that left brain, right brain. And I mean, I think the thing that I found in real estate specifically is that I really love that moment where I can hand, first time home buyers their keys, and they know that I fought for them, and hopefully negotiated the best terms and protected them from all of the different elements of a home that can, arise, because you only get 30 days or 45 days in escrow. And, you really want to make sure that, like, if you know the area, certain things that are protected with the HOA, or you're buying an SFR, a single family residence, that you are aware of what you need to do to protect them. That way, this is a safe purchase for them. And then I work with investors too. Investors are completely different. It's fix and flip. It's multi-res. So it's like, can I monetize this? And that's a little bit more transactional, maybe a le less emotional, which is nice in its own ways, but both gratifying. So, you find ways to balance the two worlds together. But I do find myself in this moment, as I'm talking to you on your show today, really just enjoying the fact that I get to be on shows like this and I get to talk about my journey as an artist because it is the thing that I fell in love with first. And it's the thing that will always hold more weight to me because, again, 100 stories, $10 million, $100 million. I would always pick the stories because I think there's so much weight in telling a human story well and having that resonate, in the future.
Right. And enlightening more people, like the lady that came up to you about her son and becoming more closer with him. And now people can hear more of your story and more, and, take away a lot more of your experiences in hopes that it will be impactful to them, which I'm sure it has. How many shows have you been on so far as podcasts? What is this, like the 30th one you've been on? So
Maybe even more than that.
you're almost at that 100 storytelling mark. So just
Yeah,
keep going.
well, and what's great about it is I'm meeting great people such as yourself, and they're all different types of platforms, right? You're vibing, and there's other people, that are, more business centric. I've done a couple sports podcasts, which has been really fun, like kind of talking about acting and sports, because there's a lot of alignment there that we've gone into today because we're vibing, we're going all over the place today, which I love, right? So but it's great because I'm meeting great people, and what I say all the time too is, a film or a TV show, it's only a certain amount of time, right? It's a concise amount of time, whether it be an hour and a half, 2 hours, and you're telling a story. But I feel like these can be companion pieces to understand a little bit more about me and my journey and what made me and what crafted me into the person I am and the storyteller I am. And so these conversations are important to me too. And I get to meet some awesome people in the process. So I'm really having a lot of fun with it.
Yes, that's great. So, do you feel like spirituality and acting are connected in any way?
Um, no, I feel like they're connected in all ways. Like I think they are literally in alignment with each other. I feel like so much of being an actor is being in touch with your spirituality and whatever that means to you. I mean, it doesn't matter what religion you practice, what God you pray to. It is about, your emotional and spiritual journey. They are one and the same to me. They always have been and they always will be because you do have to have those moments of reckoning with yourself. You do have to have that faith, that belief in yourself, and sometimes that comes from pulling from the deepest parts of yourself and going back to, like your childlike state, right? And just finding the immense power and joy that you felt in this practice since you've been alive on this planet. So, yeah, I always say, find your spiritual journey, whatever that is to you. Find the ways to meditate, to reflect, and find other people that will do that with you, right? Because it is such a collaborative art that you need people. And I think that's something that you find on set too, is a lot of different people from different vocations tend to find each other on the same casts and crews because of that alignment, right? And I do feel like for us and somewhere in Montana, there was so much spiritual crossover. There was so much spiritual. I mean, you could just tell from the conversations that we were having, the different people that happened to get cast in those roles. And my wife says it better than me, but it's something you brought up earlier. It's that, she believes, and I believe this, that 100% of the roles that are meant to you, that are meant for you, will find you. They will find you in some ways. 100% of the roles that are meant for you will find you. And it took me a long time to believe in that. But I think spirituality has taught me that is true. It took me booking Fabian Verdugo to realize like this role truly was meant for me. And I say that selflessly. Like I say that like literally in the ways that this role taught me so much about myself. And it is such a gift. And I am so grateful for it. But it was meant for me too. I can take ownership of that now because, I felt like I needed it in where I was in my life. And, thank God or whatever God you pray to, or, however you feel spiritually, that Brandon saw that and Eden saw that, and Jared saw that as well. because at the premiere I gave Brandon this really special gift because of what a gift he had given me. And it was this handcrafted thing. I found an artisan that made this sign of somewhere in Montana with all the different little sets in it, out of barnwood, and it says somewhere in Montana. And on the back of it, I got carved in, "Thank you for the role of a lifetime, Matt Drago, Fabian Verdugo." And it's on my Instagram if you want to look back. And it was a really special thing for me to give him, to show him what a big thing he had given me. And I thought it was a really, really cool thing, in the creation of this thing that I was crafting for him, is that when he sent me 2 Irish pennies to work on my nervous tick in rolling an Irish penny, and I'm still doing it even though I don't have an Irish penny, but it's hard to do. It's the crossover of bringing it. But he sent me 2 of them.
Mhm.
So that day, I pulled one out of my pocket and I gave him one back because and there's a little carving in the middle where he can put that Irish penny right in the middle. And again, that is our connection as friends, as collaborators.
Mhm.
And I get choked up all the time because he gave me such a gift. I'm so grateful that our paths cross. I'm so grateful that he saw in me something that maybe I didn't see in myself. But when I started to play this role, I was like, yeah, this was meant for me. And that's really cool feeling.
And it's reassuring. And you will, when you're on a path of excelling in life, you will align yourself with other people that are on the same frequency that you are on. And
Yeah.
they are there essentially to kind of help you on your life's journey. A lot of people who are not kind of spiritually in tune like that kind of think it when they're in when they are building relationship with other people, they don't look at it as deeply as that. They just like, okay, well, this is a cool connection, whatever. But when you're so grounded spiritually, you understand the meaning of it. And you were able to recognize that in this film and make those connections. And you guys are all paying it forward to each other, with the penny and, just the time that you spent with each other and everything that you learned from one another during this role. And I'm sure there were some challenges there too, but overall you were able to take away something from this experience and not just think that it was in vain, and that's what life is about, is looking at things a little deeper and not taking advantage or any of the experiences that you have for granted. And what are you learning from everything in life? Because everything is about learning, good, bad, and in between, so I love
It's
that.
a line from the film, and it's one of my favorite lines. It's not things that matter in life. It's people,
Yeah.
not ideologies. It's people that matter in life. And it really is. It's so true when you think about it. It's like finding your tribe, finding people that align with you, finding your spiritual practice, finding your vibe, right? Finding what uniquely is going to fill you up every day, because we only get so much time. And so I just really think about all of the little gifts that were given to me within this big gift of this role. And it's definitely something that I will cherish for now and forever.
Yeah. So, do you practice any mindfulness or spiritual rituals to prepare for your roles?
Yeah, I definitely do a lot of reflection. I do something that is interesting because I mean, in film, a lot of times you have maybe a little bit more time than TV to build the character. This film specifically got pushed back a year. So I had a year and a half to live with this character. And I found unique elements to bring myself to the role, and to bring my personal self to the role. The night before each of the scenes, because I mean, again, you do so much work on the scene and then you give it away, and that's very uniquely hard to do, is that I take one final pass through the scene before I give it away. And I think about any maybe last minute things, because I always say your like creative juices are like heightened at that point because it's imminent before you're about to give that scene away. And there was one specific example of that where I wrote myself a little monologue in my scene with Frank, who's the executive producer. And it was just this backstory about like our time together in New York City, and it was something that felt like Brandon let me have it on set, so I could kind of get into that moment and get into that connection and that backstory, because I only have one scene with the great Michael Monks, and spending one day on set with him was just a true master class. He is just a phenomenal human being, a pro, and such a true collaborator. And so to get to do that with him, because he's got a theater background as well, I had written like a little monologue, and it's still in my script, that I keep next to my nightstand. Um, and I did. I wrote out something, and I did it, and they shot it, and then it led right into the actual scene, and I think it instilled so much of that. So, my practice is ever changing, ever evolving, but I think I realized from this process to really enjoy reflecting on the character, and reflecting on the journey. And I think that's why I'm really glad that I got in the car and didn't just get in a plane and fly up to Montana. I think I'm really glad that I hiked the trails of Zion, and I experienced the Crystal Lakes, and walked through the river, and took a lunch out to the river, and just sat there, like literally without my phone, and just took those moments to myself where I feel like Fabian and the process of being in this film and being in Montana. I mean, God, I mean, God's wallpaper, absolutely gorgeous up there. It's an artist's dream, and I think it really gave me the ability to really dive deep into my spirituality, and to dive deep into that practice through the vessel of my character as Fabian. And just what a unique joy and a gift in my life to be able to experience in that. And that's why this whole journey of 2.5 years now has been just such an absolute gift in my life.
Love that. So, are there any like books or philosophies or any spiritual teachings that have influenced your approach in acting and in life?
Hmm. I take in so many. I don't really have any that come to mind because I just look for snippets wherever I can take them. I focus back on my practice as a martial artist. My dad took me to the Zendos when we were in New York City, and a Zendo is you are in a room full of people, and there's sound baths, and I actually did a sound bath up in Montana. I like what I would call more physical spiritual practices, um, more than just reading or them, if that makes sense. I like to encapsulate myself in something. So meditation has always been a key practice for me. Growing up with a martial artist, and in my dad, and going to these zendos, I feel like because the first one that I went to, ironically, was in New York City, and the hustle and bustle of the city. And then you like literally open the door, and it's quiet, and there's like just stillness, and you go into a room full of other people that are also searching for that stillness. And I love to feel the energy of spirituality more, I would say, more than intellectually consuming it, if that makes sense. I like to feel it. I think that helps me more as an actor. There are things that I see online. There are things that I have come across, but none come to mind, because the things that really resonate to me are when I'm in space with other people that are also searching for that, because I feel them searching for that in the way that I am too. And that kind of brings me closer to my God, or my spiritual practice. And so yeah, the Zendo, meditation, and just really taking that to Zion, and to the hike that I did in Utah, looking up over the snow-capped mountains. And every day before I woke up, I was literally at the Quataknook Resort in Polson, Montana, and I was looking out over Flathead Lake and the beautiful mountains. And Kyra, I'd get up early and just like have my cup of coffee and just like stare at the water and, not get on my phone and think about how grateful I was to just be in that moment, to, in an hour, be picked up by Joe Borden, our producer, and just a funny, jovial guy, my friend, just love him so much. And just being grateful to be able to be in that moment, to be driven to set and to be around my people and to tell a great story. I reflected on it almost like it was over before each day it had started, if that makes sense. It was like I was so joyful about the moment that I took every moment to enjoy the moment. And I think that came from my spiritual practice and my meditation and being in the Zendos in New York City.
That's beautiful. And like you said, Montana is such a beautiful place. It's like God's wallpaper, like you said. It really is, and it's just like, how can you not take a step back and appreciate, everything that's happening in your life and look back at all the people that are, that have been presented to you in your life to kind of help you on your life's journey and to just be in a moment of stillness. Because
Yeah.
in life, it's just so much hustle and bustle, you're always on the go that sometimes you don't have time to appreciate the simple things. So I love the fact that you were able to do this, especially in this particular film. So that's awesome.
100%. It's again goes back to what I said before. The journey is the destination. I say this all the time, that I feel like I've already won with this film. I want people to see it because I think it's a beautiful story. I think we need it in our society right now. It dives into legacy. It dives into mutual respect. Because I think mutual respect is the highest form of love that you can give somebody. And if you can learn and find ways to respect each other, then your differences do melt away because you will never agree on everything, and that's okay. But I think it gives us a path to walk towards, and I think we need that in our society right now. So the actual messaging of the film is powerful. It's what I've always wanted to do as an actor, as a collaborator, as an artist. But I also feel like I've already won because of the relationships and the people that I met along the journey. Um, and I think that's what makes this just an extraordinary gift that I'll always hold dear in my life.
Right. And you'll continue to win with you appreciating these things, these, experiences that you have in your life. You will always continue to win. And that's what it's all about.
Amen.
So, what do you think is the purpose of storytelling in a spiritual or human sense?
Give me the question one more time. That was
So, what
deep. I liked it.
Yeah, we gotta get real deep in it. We gotta vibe with it. So, what do you think is the purpose of storytelling in a spiritual or a human sense?
Hmm. In a spiritual or human sense.
Mhm. Can be either or both.
I mean, I think there is such an incredible dynamic of when you are telling a story and you feel like it resonates with you and the society and the world that you live in, that it just makes you feel like so connected, just so connected, um, that you are diving into the world of humanity in the story and where it lives. This one lives in Montana. It lives with a Montana rancher and a film director. And they both are two people that would never be put in the same situation. And they have to find a way in an impossible situation where I need John's ranch to shoot my legacy piece film, and he needs the money from the ranch to keep his ranch alive because it's on life support and the banks are coming after him. So we are put in a unique human situation where we need each other and we're so vastly different. And so that's the humanity part of it. I think the spirituality part of it is taking yourself out of it and then being Matt and looking at this film at large and just saying, wow, this is like a story that makes me feel so connected to way back when I was a child and it was simple and I was free and I was just running around with my own creativity and my own imagination. And it just made me feel alive. It made me feel connected to the earth and the trees and the wind and the air and everything around me, the sunshine, and just feeling all elements of that and being alive. And I think that that's where it comes into frame, both from a spiritual side and from a human side.
I love that. So I want to leave off with what advice would you give an inspiring young actor just starting out? What would Matt say?
Yes. I mean it's what I told my friend Jolie who's doing great things right now. And I'm so it's actually a lot of younger actors in recent times. Also Rowan is another friend of mine that's come to me because she's starting to get into she's a ghostwriter and a lot of actors are coming to me right now and asking me that same question. So it's very fresh in my mind. And again, Jolie Canava and Rowan Cooper are two people to look out for because I see it like I saw it in myself. And I wish I had, people like me, maybe helping out a little bit more. I love giving back. I always have. I think that this is a dynamic art form and that when you see it in people's eyes and you see not only how much they want it, but how much joy it brings them, that's what I lean into. That's what I tell them. There are things that you can get, more adept at in the business part of it. Rowan wrote me an email yesterday, and she wrote this beautiful email. It was gorgeous, and it was way too long because she was trying to get an agent, and she was going through all the different things that made her a great actor. And I said, agents at this point are going to be reactionary and you need to lead with your three or four best lines. And I shot her an email that I wrote like a year and a half ago to an agent, and I said, utilize a little bit more of this because I've been there and, they don't know you. So they're not going to read, a 4 or 5 paragraph thing with like, 5 or 6 different links on it and a bunch of attachments that they don't want to open, right? So it's little advice like that, because I know how much she cares. And so if she cares, I'm going to care and I'm going to tell her what I feel like can benefit her. But again, I'm one person. So take people's advice that you trust and only those people. And take other people's points of view as well. But the number one thing that I say to young actors and people that just love the craft of acting is again, enjoy the journey and find joy in it every day, however you can. Enjoy getting an audition, enjoy being on set, enjoy those conversations that you have. Those are once in a lifetime conversations. I had a wonderful conversation with Michelle Hurd. We watched the sunset together and we talked about life, we talked about career, we talked about everything. That conversation to me is a gift, right? So it's like you find little moments like that. I hope I can give that to other young actors that are looking for that path for themselves, but I can't give them the path. They have to find it themselves. But what I can give them is that, little tidbit of information that you have to check in with yourself early, often. You have to figure out, what brings you joy, what your spiritual practice is that we've talked about today, how you vibe, and how you can continue to just enjoy the actual journey of it all. Because when you enjoy that, your level of attraction becomes so much stronger. People will come to you, like you came to me today, right? You find people that want to share your story and be a part of your story. And when you start to collect these wonderful souls in your life that align with you and your practice and your joy of storytelling, I got to be honest, there's less luck that I feel like is involved. I feel like, you start to find opportunities, you start to find success because you're a beacon of light at that point. And when you feel that you really are a beacon of light, you attract so many things. The momentum starts to pick up, and you find your way somehow. You find your way.
And so let everyone know. So Somewhere in Montana is out in theaters now, right?
It's a limited release right now. It will come to more theaters soon. We're looking at an expansion right now. I will post all my updates when it comes to more theaters, as well as when it comes to streaming platforms and video on demand as well. So the best way to follow me is on Instagram at Matt Drago, MattDrago. From there, you've got my link tree. It's got my websites, mattdrago.com as an actor, dragonhunterproductions.com as a producer with my production company. It's also got my IMDb if you want to check out my past and future projects and all my other social media platforms. But I'm most active on Instagram, so give me a follow at Matt Drago. Follow my life and my journey there.
Yes, y'all heard it first here. Make sure y'all go check out his link tree and make sure you go and watch the film. I'm definitely anticipating it, being nationwide and of course being on streaming platforms. People don't go out to no theater no more. Everybody just wants to watch Netflix or Amazon Prime and things like that. So I'm definitely anticipating this. I can't wait to see it. And Matt, thank you so much for coming on my show and vibing out with me today. It was a pleasure.
Kyra, it has been absolutely a joy vibing with you today. Thank you so very much for having me on your show today.
Absolutely. And thank y'all for tuning in to another episode of Vibe Selection. As you already know, I'm your host, Kyra. Stay safe, stay so healthy out there. Bye.